Walt Disney World is the place where dreams come true, but your patience might be living a nightmare. If you are a theme park novice, or if you think you've been enough times to know exactly what you're doing, we've got news for you. Openings, closures, snacks that cost more than your rent from 2003. Keeping up with the changes at Disney World is basically a full time job. But lucky for you, we've done the homework for you so you don't have to get lost in a sea of magic bands, mobile orders, and limited time offerings that disappear faster than a Rise of the Resistance boarding group. So buckle up, Buttercup. We are chatting all about the latest magic and madness happening in the Walt Disney World theme parks right now. We are going to start today, before we get into all the Disney stuff, by talking about how Jodi planned a last minute trip on Utopia of the Seas on one of the busiest weekends of the entire season. So, what gives? How'd you do it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was a great experience. I probably didn't think about it as clearly as I was going into it, but I did. So I did book it for Memorial Day weekend. I went with my college kids, and we really just didn't know like when their summer jobs were starting. So it was kind of a last minute thing. When you do book a last minute cruise, you do have to keep in mind that other people have had the opportunity to book things like excursions and get their check-in time earlier. So, we kind of just said, and Utopia of the Seas, it's a huge ship. This was a 3-day cruise. You can't do it all anyway. So, what I did first before I booked, I looked at the price of the cruise and I said, okay, we can do that. And then I went right to the airfare because that could have been a game changer. And it wasn't. I did something a little bit different this time. I flew out of Boston into Orlando. And then when I flew home, we flew into Worcester Regional Airport in Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
which was a new airport I had not been to before. But I actually had like an Uber driver who was like, "Why aren't you flying out of Worcester more?" And so I tried it. Obviously there aren't nearly as many flights, but it was so insanely convenient.
Yeah.
I will definitely do that more. But the price was not bad to fly. What was interesting is that I was on the plane with a family of young kids, and they so this ended up being like a terrible weekend weather-wise in New England. It rained every day, it was cold, I think it was like 45 degrees when we left, and this family had said that their plan was actually to go camping, and when he saw the weather, he
No.
shifted. So that was even more last minute, although they didn't go on the cruise, they just went to Florida to get away from the cold, rainy weather. But yeah, so you do have to keep in mind that you're not gonna have all of the options, like, one of the dining times was sold out. We did the Royal Up process
Mm-hmm.
to get, a stateroom upgrade. So when I had gone back initially to book the cruise after I checked and made sure the airfare worked, there was 1 room left. 1.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, immediately, like, I need to book this. And I booked it, and then I could check in right away because we were in that window.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was like texting the kids for like those selfies, and like they had their passports. I needed the information. But I put in for Royal Up on all the categories I was offered, which was actually quite a few categories. A bigger balcony, a junior suite, and then there was a junior suite in the sky category because most of the
Mm-hmm.
junior suites are not in the sky category. And then the grand with 1 bedroom, and then there was 1 class above that. I bid in all of them. I didn't bid like the maximum or anything like that, but, I did a good bid. So I was surprised to see, like, I think we left on Thursday, and on Tuesday I got notification that I got the 1 bedroom.
That's awesome.
So like 4 above what we had. And so obviously like I didn't get the concierge reaching out to me in advance. We did get the new tickets, the new luggage tags, like
Mm-hmm.
the day before. But yeah, we were able to take advantage of all of those benefits,
That's awesome.
which was great because, it was 3 adults in the room. So it was nice to have a little more room.
Yeah.
And we had a really nice balcony. You saw I had sent a video of like you could hear all the music from the pool deck. So it was so nice though, because we were like just sitting out there kind of enjoying ourselves, not in the hecticness of the pool deck, but still able to hear the DJ, which was really
Yeah.
fun. So yeah, it ultimately worked out. But yeah, it was a lot of planning in a short period of time.
Yeah, Jim is a master at last minute trips. He will just throw something out there and be like, "Let's go this weekend. Let's go." And it throws me into such a tizzy because I am a planner and I like to know I've got all of my ducks in a row. But last minute like that, some things probably did work to your advantage, like having a later port arrival time, which I did learn from you. You avoid all of the chaos of the early
Right.
morning, the people that want
Right.
to get on board right away. So I think last minute is not always a bad thing.
No, not necessarily. I mean, for a 3-day cruise, you do want to get on a little bit earlier, but like our room was ready when we got on. We didn't wait very long for our luggage. So, yeah, there were definitely benefits to that. So, let's get
Okay.
into our main segment. You said buckle up, Buttercup, and there are a lot of updates, changes, closures, things going on at Disney World. It's a super exciting time. And we're going to start with talking about the closures. So, that is kind of the unfortunate piece of getting new things is that we lose the old things with, you know, a long time for them to switch over. So let's talk about these, including the one that we are both sad about.
Muppet Vision 3D. I have so many. I love the Muppets from childhood, and I remember going with my dad for the very first time to Muppet Vision 3D. He was completely enamored, and it just always has held a place in my heart. And I will say, I have not been a diehard fan of all of the things that are being impacted by the closures and the changes, but I never missed Muppet Vision 3D. We went every single visit. So this closed on June the 7th. There will be a Muppet retheming over at Rock and Roller Coaster. We don't have a date yet for when that's going to come around, but it was sad news for me.
Yeah, and the Rock and Roller Coaster change is one that's sad for me. I love that ride. I understand like we have a new home for the Muppets, but yeah, that one was a big one for me.
Yeah, and I can count on less than one hand how many times I've been on Rock and Roller Coaster, and I think I still have a headache from the first time I rode it. So every time I go there, there's like, yeah, no, I'm good. So I might never see the Muppets again.
And we should mention too that Mama Melrose, the Italian restaurant that's in that area, that is also closing or closed.
Yeah, big changes coming there. Pizza Rizzo is gone. We're going to see some big changes there in the coming years. And another big one, which I know just based on what I've seen online is huge for a lot of people, but Tom Sawyer Island, Rivers of America, and the Liberty Square River Boat, which is right, it kind of goes between where the Haunted Mansion is down to Frontierland, is closing. You still have a little bit of time to get there. It will be closed as of July the 7th, and this will help with the brand new Cars Land. So I think change is good for this one. But if you are a fan of Tom Sawyer Island or you want to go see this area one more time, you just have a couple of days left.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the nostalgia aspect of it, but you know, change is good too.
It is. You may have already noticed Big Thunder Mountain Railroad closed in January for a very long refurbishment. And there is some word on the street that you will see some slight tweaking to the exterior of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And I guess the curious now are wondering, will it fit into the national park vibe from the new Cars Land area, or will it maybe reflect a little of the Villains Land that's coming in? But that's expected to open at some point in 2026. The other big closure, which I think everybody is aware of and people have already noticed, Dino Land at Disney's Animal Kingdom effectively closed. The only thing that you can really still do there is the dinosaur ride. You'll be able to do that at least through the rest of this year. That is scheduled to close early 2026. And this is to make room for a whole brand new project at Animal Kingdom. And another departure, which is a rough one for me. I'm okay with it on the way better than I am with the Muppets, but it's tough to be a bug if you haven't been to Animal Kingdom in a while. That left in March, but we've got news about what's coming in there.
Yeah, so let's start. And, obviously we're talking about closures. Now we're talking about things that are opening. There's stuff going on everywhere. So
There really is,
there
all over
really
the
is.
place.
So let's start with Epcot, which has had a lot of changes, including the Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind,
Yeah.
the renaming of the lands. But what else is new at Epcot?
Well, the big one over the last couple of weeks has been Geo 82. And this is a first for any of the Disney World theme parks. This is a brand new lounge that you'll find right there at the Geosphere at Epcot. but it's an adult only area. So you have to be 21 to go in. They're going to have some signature cocktails, some signature mocktails, and you'll be able to enjoy some small plates, just kind of snacky type stuff. You won't be able to get a full meal there. The big news, though, from this spot is you will be able to book a fireworks experience. And I don't know if you've done the fireworks experience or the dessert parties or anything. I
Mhm.
absolutely love
Yeah.
them. Totally think they're worth not battling crowds for. But this experience, it's $180 a person, but you're going to get a table right up front by the window, and it's going to include champagne. You'll have a tower of little snacks and savory bites that you can enjoy. And then as the fireworks are starting, they're going to serve a selection of sweets from their menu. So this sounds like a great thing. I can't wait to go in person and see this place.
Yeah, I mean, I love having that type of access to the fireworks because I'm not like a crowds like, we've talked about before, I'm petite. I don't like fighting for space to be able to see something. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. And if you haven't been to Epcot in a while and you're wondering what is she talking about, fireworks, the Luminous is the new nighttime show, the Symphony of Us. It opened earlier this year. This is the new nighttime show. It's got fireworks, it's got fountains, there's music, there's all kinds of stuff. So this is going to be a great venue to watch that from. You won't have to worry about finding a good spot out in World Showcase. You'll have a really good spot to see it.
And there's also some favorite two cartoon kids are back, Phineas and Ferb. I love Phineas and Ferb. I think I've seen every episode like 5 times. I am so excited that Phineas and Ferb are back.
I'm gonna be honest and tell you, I was so stunned. I was like, "Do kids even know who Phineas and Ferb are?" And I'm like asking my grandchildren. I'm playing the theme song in the car. I'm like, "Do you guys know this song?" But my girls grew up with Phineas and Ferb
Right,
and
right, my
absolutely
kids did
loved
too.
them. So part of the cool kids summer, which is what they're calling this summer at Walt Disney World, you'll be able to go to a meet and greet at Epcot with Phineas and Ferb. Now, I don't know if this is going to continue past September when school is going to come back and everybody's got to go back to school, presumably even Phineas and Ferb. So if you want to see them and you want an opportunity to meet them and get your picture taken, you want to do that now. The other real quick thing I want to mention, and my own husband did not even know this was a thing, there is an exhibit at Epcot at the American Adventure Pavilion called Portraits of Courage. And what this is, it's 60 hand painted portraits that President George Bush did of veterans, US Navy veterans, military veterans that he met post 9/11. And he got to know them, he got to know their stories, and he painted pictures of them. Now, some of these pictures you can see war injuries, some of the pictures are with their families or with their spouses, but this was set to close this exhibit and they've now extended it into spring of 2026. And this is something, it's so moving and it's so emotional, but I absolutely recommend before it really does close that you go see it.
And so Test Track is also currently closed and it is reopening, right?
It is reopening. You will see Test Track open later this summer. And Test Track, as you know, has been through several different reimaginings, but this time it will be a whole new storyline. It is based on automation. So you'll supposedly we're going to get a glimpse at past, present, and future of automation. And it should be really cool. I'm not a huge thrill ride kind of person, but I do enjoy Test Track. I like the story. I like the ride. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I didn't particularly love the iteration like this past one that just closed, but the one before that I really liked, and I like the actual ride, so I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did tease a little bit about what is coming to the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Huge changes there too, but let's start with something a lot of people are excited about, um, the new nighttime parade.
I am way more excited about this than I should. And I will even admit that even though I hate Walt Disney World in the summer because I am not a hot weather person, I wrote on my calendar July the 20th because that is when the Magic Kingdom will see the return of a nighttime parade. And the artist renderings look absolutely amazing. So this is going to be called Disney Starlight Dream the Night Away Parade, and it launches with the help of the Blue Fairy. You can expect to see characters from Pinocchio, Peter Pan, Moana, and Canto, and even more. I am deliriously excited about this. I loved the Main Street Electrical Parade. I love the whole, it's This is like pixie dust to me, just seeing all the glittery lights. And I can't even imagine with the advancement in the technology, just for the illumination purposes, this is going to be stunning.
And then there is a new lounge coming, right? So I didn't know this.
Yeah, there's going to be a new lounge. Now, this one is family friendly, so not like the one at Epcot, which is 21 and above. And they are going to start taking reservations for this very soon, any day now. It depends on if you're a resort guest or not, but you want to check into reservations if you're interested. This is a pirate themed lounge. It'll be right near Pirates of the Caribbean. It is set to open later this year. They're predicting maybe around the time of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. So look for it late September, October. There is supposed to be sing-alongs, storytelling, all kinds of surprises, specialty cocktails, probably the same sort of little bites. They haven't released any kind of a menu or anything. But yeah, that's super exciting. It's going to be fun. Anybody that loves pirates and loves that whole area of the park, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. And then of course, Cars Land, which we now know is going to be Piston Peak National Park.
Yeah, you mentioned this in our news last week, and this has been a long awaited announcement. First of all, people that are familiar with Cars Land out in Disneyland have been asking, why don't we have one? Why don't we have one in Florida? But the theming of this is it's going to be amazing. There's supposed to be big mountain, snow-covered mountains, majestic trees, waterfalls. It sounds like you're really going to be immersed into the whole national park thing. But this is what precipitated the closing of Tom Sawyer Island. I know if there's a lot of big fans out there, they're super sad about that, but hang tight, be faithful. It's really going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And then another brand new land.
Yeah, lots coming down the pike for the Magic Kingdom. Disney's brand new Villains Land is under construction as of this summer. It's supposed to take place. Now, we are not going to see this park open probably until 2029-ish, but it's going to impact a lot of that back area. Now, this Villains Land is going to open up behind Big Thunder Mountain. I know a lot of people don't know that there is still land back there.
Right.
So it's going to change the whole landscape of Magic Kingdom in that back area. So it's going to be exciting to watch that unfold.
Okay, so not as big as the news at the Magic Kingdom, but there is stuff going on at Hollywood Studios. We talked about the closure of some of the restaurants and Muppet Vision 3D.
Yeah.
This is going to be Monsters Inc. themed.
Yeah, so that whole area where Muppets was and Mama Melrose and Pizza Rizzo is going to be taken over by the monsters that we love from the Monsters Inc. stories. There is some word that construction is going to start later this summer. There's no estimate for when this area of the park is going to reopen with this new retheming. But again, if you're a Monsters Inc. fan, this is big news for you. And the other big news coming out of Disney's Hollywood Studios, especially if you are waiting with bated breath for the Disney Villains Land over at the Magic Kingdom, there's a brand new villains show that opened up recently at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I just had the opportunity to watch the whole show yesterday, and it is colorful, it is dynamic, and all of the villains that you love to hate are there. Cruella de Vil, Jafar, Captain Hook. The music there's a couple of bops in this show that you're going to want to listen to that I really enjoyed. And I'm super excited that Disney is kind of embracing the villains now. I would love to see a villains character meal. If that's on anybody's radar, I would totally love to see that. But I'm really glad to see, because there are people that love the villains. They're just
People love the
totally,
villains.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm glad to see that they're getting their day in the sun.
And in the past, I think like the biggest thing villains related we saw was really on Disney Cruise Line with that show, the Villains Tonight Show.
Yeah, I think that was the first time, and it is super popular. And I will say this forever. I think the best part of the Little Mermaid show, which by the way also new at Disney's Hollywood Studios, is the newly reopened Little Mermaid show. But I think the best part of that show was Ursula. I loved that show.
Animal Kingdom, we talked a little bit about Dinoland USA closing for a Tropical Americas themed land, but we also will have a replacement for the Tree of Life show.
Yeah, so probably by the end of this year, they're projecting right around Thanksgiving, November the 26th, Zootopia is going to take over the Tree of Life, and we will have a Zootopia themed 4D show called Zootopia Better Zootgether, which I'm going to forget. It doesn't matter how many times I implant it in my head. Better Zootgether is the name of the new show. So that's something to look forward to if you have, your Christmas trip booked, your holiday trip booked. And Dinoland is going to be Pueblo Esperanza, which is supposed to be a rough translation of Village of Hope. And this is going to be themed on tropical America. So you can expect to see an Indiana Jones attraction in there, an Encanto attraction in there. I am a total Disney foodie. So the thing that I'm super excited about is they are going to put the largest or one of the largest quick service dining locations at any Disney World theme park right there in Dinoland. And that's coming sooner than I think I expected. All of that will be up and running around 2027.
Yeah, I think it's all super exciting. I think, Dinoland was always, it was cute and kitschy and it was a fun theme, but there's a lot of potential in that space. And I think a lot of people like dinosaur. If you've been to Disneyland, you know that there is an Indiana Jones themed ride using like a similar ride mechanism. So that'll be exciting too.
Yeah, I think I didn't get Dino Land. I didn't embrace it. And I will give you this little backstory. We did the cast member preview of Animal Kingdom when it first opened, and they were very much promoting this like mythical beast area.
Right.
And I think at some point I hoped that Dino Land would sort of evolve into this area, there's some kind of like fantasy driven mystical area. And it was like going to the Jersey Shore with all like the boardwalk games and stuff. So I never really got Dino Land. I'm super glad that they've decided to do something else with it. And the Indiana Jones attraction will go right in the same building where Dinosaur is now. So again, you still have until the end of this year to ride Dinosaur, get all of your stuff in there. And then they're going to do a magical Casitas attraction, which they're billing as sort of a dark ride, but also family friendly. So I'm thinking, if you've done any of the rides over at the Magic Kingdom that are a little on the dark side, it might be similar to those.
Right. Right. So many fun things at all four parks.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with everything.
And then you mentioned there was some other new news too.
Yeah, so there are some renovations that are finally finished over at Port Orleans, so that's something to keep in mind if you want to check out some of the new rooms. And a couple months ago, I bring this up even though it's a couple months old because I think this is still a very controversial restaurant. Have you done the cake bake shop at Disney
Haven't.
World?
No. No.
So I did not know that this was a chain. There are other cake bake
Mhm.
shop restaurants, and I've spoken to people who have eaten both at the one at the boardwalk and the ones in other spots. It's been open, I believe, since October. You can get afternoon tea there. They do all of the meals. I've seen the restaurant, and it's absolutely stunning. They very liberally use glitter, edible glitter, in a lot of their food, which I think is so much fun. But the the big thing that people are talking about is the cake slices there are $22 a piece. I've seen the cake slices and they're massive. And I think if you have a table of 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 people, that doesn't sound like that much money if you've seen the size of these slices. You can buy a whole cake that will set you back about $105. And yeah, I'm old enough to remember when car payments were still in that range. But I've made several reservations to go and have a meal here. I've made a breakfast reservation with my grandchildren. I've made afternoon tea reservations, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I look at the pricing on the menu and I think it's so cute and it's so pretty, and I really want to go. I just don't know if I can justify $22 for a slice of cake.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. Definitely.
It's a lot, but if it's something that you've done or, you're thinking of doing, let me know what convinced you to pull the trigger and go for it, or why shouldn't I pull the trigger and go for it? And the last bit of news that I just want to bring up, we have owned DVC for many years, 4 different contracts at 4 different resorts. And The thing that people have done over the years is they have rented out their Disney Vacation Club points. That's what DVC stands for. Now, basically what that means is DVC is a timeshare, and you purchase a bucket of points that you can use at the resorts whenever you want to go. So instead of like their traditional timeshare where you have to go this same week every year, you can really use the points whenever you want at whatever resort you want. A lot of people were using those points when they couldn't personally use them and renting them out to other people. DVC is now cracking down on those rentals. The rentals are still permitted, but you're not supposed to make a business out of it. So now when you make a DVC reservation, you're going to have to check a box to indicate whether this is a personal reservation for you to use or whether someone other than you is going to use this reservation. The overall vibe of the rule or this enforcement of this, you know, I guess, checking method to see who's using the reservation, I think is predicated by the fact that it is becoming increasingly difficult for people who own DVC to make reservations. So they just want to make sure that people aren't just purchasing these DVC contracts sort of as a business thing for
Right.
themselves, and the people that actually own DVC points and want to use them have an opportunity to use them. So if you're a DVC owner, just know that that change is on the horizon as well.
Mail call, question stories, let's hear it all. From you to us, it's wonder and chat. So grab a seat, let's talk just like that.
We have a couple of questions that we've gotten about previous episodes, and I'm going to take this one over to Jodi because she's the one that talked about flight delays in our last episode. How long do you think you should give yourself if you have a layover? Is there like a too little amount of time and a too much amount of time?
I think it depends. So obviously, if you are talking about an international flight, there are certain requirements for how long that needs to be. And, you might find that you actually want a shorter time and the airline won't let you. If you're going through customs when you land and then have a connecting flight, I say hours. And that is because, I have waited the last time I flew home, I think I flew in through must have been Miami, but we were in line for the longest amount of time to get through. You have to go through customs, you have to give your bags back, you have to you get your bags, you give them back. You go through security again. We walked, we might as well have walked to Orlando. We were walking through this airport forever. Hours, definitely. If it's domestic, keep in mind, and we've talked about this a little bit in news segments, that the airlines are starting to board the aircrafts faster. So, it might look like you have an hour, but, they're boarding 35 minutes before. You've got a long walk. If you're like me, you need to hit the restroom. You might, it's going to take you 10 minutes to get off the plane because everybody's ahead of you. More than once, we haven't been able to get off the plane because that little bridgeway didn't work. So, um, I'm gonna say at least an hour and a half, um, and possibly more.
I did not experience crunch time like I did coming back from Australia last year. We had 3 hours at LAX as a layover, and initially that sounded to me like a whole lot of time. Like, what are we going to
Right.
do with 3 hours? But yeah, by the time we got through customs and then we're in the area trying to find our bags, and it was sort of like a chaotic situation in there. And the more we're delayed, I'm like looking at my watch,
Yeah.
thinking, okay, now we only have 2 hours. Now we only have an hour and a half. Are we gonna get through security and get to the plane in time?
Right, right.
So, yeah, I think give yourself a little bit longer than you think you need just to be safe.
Absolutely. And then if there is any sort of flight delay, in addition to these lines, the time goes by very quickly.
Yeah. So we talked a couple weeks ago about family-friendly hotels. Are there chains, like, right off the top of your head, are there chains that you just intrinsically know are more family-friendly or ones that are like, "Yeah, maybe don't take your kids there?"
I think in general, chain hotels are great, especially when you're talking like that mid-tier type of hotel, like a Hilton Garden Inn, um, Embassy Suites, which are, great for families. Staybridge Suites is another one that I really like. I mentioned Drury Inn last week. We don't have those in Boston, but those are located in the US. Those have food and suites. suite style rooms. I think a lot of those chain hotels just maintain a certain level of consistency that you know you can expect throughout the chain. Now, when you get into like the Hilton or the Marriott, those hotels, while still, they're still obviously family friendly, but they have their own they'll have their own flavor and their own style and their own amenities. So, you'll want to look at those specifically. But yeah, I think, those suite hotels, like I'm thinking specifically Embassy and Staybridge, and I know there's others that I'm not thinking of. Those have always been super consistent when I've stayed. But again, you want to look at the reviews, but there's definitely some consistency there.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. I think there are just some that scream family friendly. Like you just know that it doesn't matter. Your kids are going to be okay there if they're a little bit loud or, a little bit restless while you're waiting to go to your room or whatever. I think some hotels just make you feel like it's okay. But
Hmm.
absolutely, we've taken our kids when they were little and our grandkids to, JW Marriott properties and what other people might say, those are a little bit not giving off a family friendly vibe, but that can actually work to your advantage because if they don't see a ton of kids there during the day, they're super friendly to the kids. Like when you get there and you got your little ones in tow, and maybe they haven't seen because they do so much business travel or whatever, and they haven't seen kids all day long, they're like giving them stickers or they're chatting with them. So I think as long as you stick with a chain restaurant that you feel comfortable with and you have some familiarity with, you can find that they're family friendly. We have a little bit of a news story today, and this is something that I think impacts a lot of people because I do know a lot of solo travelers. We've done a podcast about solo travel and things to look for, and we know that in general solo travelers do face a little bit of a penalty when there's so much double occupancy out there. But this is a quirky little story that major airlines have exhibited a different pricing if you put in one guest. So if you go and you're going to go to Expedia and book a flight, if you're going to go to American Airlines and you're going to book a flight and you put in one person, the pricing that you get is going to be different than if you put in that you need to purchase multiple seats on that plane. Now, they did a study. They estimate this happened about 10% of the times. So this is not a real commonplace thing. Delta Airlines stopped doing it. They kind of admitted, yeah, we were doing this, but we don't do it anymore. American is the only airline right now that they can consistently find this pricing discrepancy. But I thought it was super interesting because a seat on a plane is a seat on the plane.
Right.
And I don't know why, it's different if you book a hotel and it's got two beds, or you book a cruise and it's got two beds, and they expect two people to go to the casino or book excursions. Like there's other revenue to be generated there, but you're just taking up a seat on the plane. I don't know why there would be a solo supplement for that.
I wonder if they're just trying to target business travelers in a different way.
Yeah, that sounds like it is. And I would think for a lot of airlines, there's bread and butter there with business
Right.
travelers.
Right. Right. Because,
Yeah.
back in the day, like they would say, you wanted a Saturday night stay for the price to go down because then, it's probably not a business traveler. So maybe this is like a different way to come at that. But, unfortunate if you're, like us, where we aren't solo on the cruise ship, but we're solo on the flights because we're coming from different places. Um,
I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that so many business travelers for a long time now have been working remotely. So
right.
they don't have the same number. And maybe this is a chance for them on flights that were previously filled with business travelers to make back some of the losses since there aren't the same number of people traveling.
Maybe.
But I'm sorry, solo travelers, it's not good news.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Wander and Chat. As always, please leave us a review wherever you're listening and join our Facebook group. It's Wander and Chat. We talk about the episodes, we'll talk about anything that's of interest. And please join us next week. We are going to be doing Christmas in July. So you may not be thinking about that holiday travel, but this will be the time where you will want to start talking about it, and we are going to cover it.
Perfect. I love Christmas. I'm excited about that one.